I was standing in my kitchen holding a gold-embossed wedding invitation that had just arrived in the mail. The handwriting on the envelope was unmistakable. It belonged to Ursuline, the woman who had shattered my heart 3 years ago. She was getting married, and for some reason she wanted me there to witness it. My hands trembled slightly as I read her handwritten note inside. The message was clear, even if the words pretended to be friendly. She wanted to show me what I had missed out on. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, and if stories about unexpected twists and turning points in life resonate with you, hit that like button and subscribe to join our community. What I discovered at that wedding changed everything I thought I knew about closure and moving forward. Let me take you back to where it all began. 5 years ago, I met Ursuline at a networking event for tech professionals in Austin, Texas. I had just graduated from college and was working as a junior developer at a small software company. My salary was modest, my apartment was tiny, and my car was a 12-year-old Honda Civic with a dent in the passenger door. But I was hungry, ambitious, and determined to build something meaningful with my life. Ursuline was working as a marketing coordinator at a startup downtown. She walked into that networking event wearing a red dress that turned heads across the room. But it was not just her appearance that caught my attention. It was the way she spoke about her dreams, her confidence, her infectious energy. When she laughed, the whole room seemed to light up. We exchanged phone numbers that night, and 2 weeks later we went on our first date. Dinner at a little Italian restaurant on South Congress Avenue. She ordered the pasta carbonara, and I ordered the cheapest thing on the menu because I was counting every dollar. But she did not seem to notice or care. She was interested in me and my ideas, in my vision for the future. Those first 6 months were magical. We spent weekends exploring the hill country, cooking dinner together in my cramped kitchen, talking about the life we wanted to build. I told her about my dream of starting my own company someday, of creating something that would make a real difference. She said she believed in me. She said she could see something special in me that others could not see. But somewhere along the way, things started to shift. It happened gradually, so slowly that I almost did not notice it at first. Ursuline got promoted to senior marketing manager at a larger company. Her salary doubled. She started hanging out with a different crowd, people who drove luxury cars and lived in high-rise apartments with skyline views. The comments began as small jokes. "When are you going to get a real job, Marcus?" she would ask with a laugh that did not quite reach her eyes. "My coworker just bought a new BMW. What are you driving again?" At first I brushed it off. I told myself she was just teasing, that she did not mean anything by it. But the jokes became more frequent, more pointed, harder to ignore. I tried to explain to her that I was building something. I was working late nights, learning new programming languages, taking on extra projects to prove myself. I was playing the long game. But Ursuline did not want to hear about long games. She wanted results now. She wanted a boyfriend who could match the lifestyle her new friends were living. The end came on a Friday night in October. I remember it was raining, the kind of cold autumn rain that seeps into your bones. My phone rang, and I saw her name on the screen. I answered with a smile, expecting to hear about her day. Instead, her voice was cold and distant. "Marcus, we need to talk. I have been thinking about this for a while, and I have made a decision. I need someone who matches my ambition, someone who is going somewhere, and honestly, I do not think that is you. You are never going to be anything." Those words hit me like a physical blow. I tried to speak, to defend myself, to understand what was happening. But she kept talking, her voice flat and final. She told me she had met someone else. His name was Derek. He was an investment banker. He had a penthouse apartment and a sports car, and a future that she wanted to be part of. Before I could respond, the line went dead. When I tried to call back, I discovered she had already blocked my number. The weeks that followed were the darkest of my life. I went through the motions at work, but my mind was elsewhere. I replayed our conversations in my head, searching for the moment when everything went wrong. I questioned everything about myself. Was she right? Was I going nowhere? Would I never amount to anything? My friends tried to help. Nathan, my best friend from college, would come over with pizza and beer, trying to distract me with video games and bad jokes. But nothing seemed to fill the emptiness inside me. I had truly loved Ursuline, and she had not just left me. She had dismissed me. She had looked at everything I was and everything I was working toward and decided it was worthless. They say that rock bottom is the foundation on which you rebuild. For me, those dark months after Ursuline left became the turning point that changed everything. I made a decision. I was not going to let her words define me. I was not going to spend the rest of my life wondering if she was right. I was going to prove not to her but to myself that I was capable of becoming everything I had dreamed of being. I threw myself into learning with an intensity I had never experienced before. Every night after work, I spent 4 to 5 hours studying artificial intelligence and machine learning. I took online courses from MIT and Stanford. I read research papers until my eyes burned. I built projects and tore them apart and built them again. After a year of relentless effort, I applied for a position at one of the biggest tech companies in the country. The interview process was grueling. 5 rounds of technical questions, coding challenges, and behavioral assessments. But when they called to offer me the job with a salary 3 times what I had been making, I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried. That was just the beginning. At my new company, I met 2 colleagues who shared my vision for the future of cybersecurity. We would stay late after work sketching ideas on whiteboards, debating approaches, dreaming bigger than we had ever dared to dream alone. After 18 months, we took the leap. We quit our jobs, pooled our savings, and launched our own startup. The first year was brutal. We worked out of my apartment because we could not afford office space. We survived on instant noodles and coffee. There were nights when I wondered if we had made a terrible mistake. But we kept pushing forward, refining our product, pitching to investors, refusing to give up. In our second year, we landed our first major client. Then another. Then another. Word spread about what we had built, and suddenly investors who had ignored us were knocking on our door. By the end of our third year, we received an acquisition offer from a major tech corporation, $20 million. When I signed those papers, I thought about Ursuline for the first time in months. I wondered if she had heard about what had happened. But the thought passed quickly. I had built this for myself, not for her. Her opinion no longer mattered. With the acquisition came a new role. I became the Chief Technology Officer of the merged company, overseeing a team of over 100 engineers. I bought a penthouse in downtown Austin, the kind of place I never could have imagined living in during those early years. I drove a Tesla now, though I kept my old Honda in the garage as a reminder of where I had started. And I had met someone. Her name was Camille. She was a cardiothoracic surgeon at the medical center, and I had met her at a charity gala for children with heart conditions. She was brilliant, compassionate, and beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with trying to impress anyone. She loved me for who I was, not for what I had achieved. When I told her about my past, about the years of struggle and self-doubt, she held my hand and said that those experiences had made me the man she fell in love with. Life was good. Better than good. I had everything I had ever wanted. Then the invitation arrived. I was sorting through my mail when I saw it. The envelope was heavy, expensive, the color of champagne. My address was written in elegant calligraphy, but I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Ursuline. Inside was the most elaborate wedding invitation I had ever seen. Gold foil lettering on thick cream paper. A wax seal on the inner envelope. The venue was listed as Barton Creek Country Club, one of the most exclusive locations in Austin. Ursuline was marrying Derek, the investment banker she had left me for. But it was the handwritten note that told me everything I needed to know about why she had sent this invitation. Marcus, it read, I hope you can come and see how well life has treated me. It would mean so much to have you there to witness my happiness. I always wondered what became of you, and I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to catch up. I read those words 3 times, and each time their meaning became clearer. This was not an olive branch. This was not an attempt at reconciliation. This was a victory lap. She wanted me there to see what I had missed, to show me the life she had built with someone better than me. I called Nathan that night and read him the invitation. When I finished, there was a long pause, followed by the sound of him laughing so hard he could barely breathe. "Dude," he finally managed to say, "she has absolutely no idea, does she? She has no clue who you are now." He was right. I had kept a low profile on social media. I rarely posted anything personal, and when the acquisition was announced, I had asked to be kept out of the press coverage. Ursuline still thought I was the struggling junior developer she had dismissed 3 years ago. "So what are you going to do?" Nathan asked. I thought about it for a long moment. My first instinct was to throw the invitation away and forget about it. I had moved on. I did not need closure from Ursuline. I did not need to prove anything to her. But when I told Camille about it that evening, she had a different perspective. "You know what?" she said, a playful gleam in her eye. "Let us go. Not for revenge, not to show off, but for closure. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit of fun." I hesitated, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. This was not about Ursuline anymore. This was about closing a chapter that I had left unfinished. I wanted to walk into that wedding not as the man she had broken, but as the man I had built myself into. I sent back the reply card indicating that I would attend with a +1. The day of the wedding arrived on a perfect Saturday in April. The sky was clear blue, the temperature warm but not hot, the kind of day that seemed designed for outdoor celebrations at exclusive country clubs. Camille and I arrived in my Tesla, pulling into the parking lot alongside rows of luxury vehicles. She wore a simple navy dress that highlighted her natural elegance. I had chosen a charcoal gray suit, well-tailored but understated. We had agreed that we would not try to make a statement. We would simply be ourselves. The country club was even more impressive than I had imagined. Manicured lawns stretched toward a pristine golf course. White tents billowed in the gentle breeze. Flowers were everywhere, roses and peonies and lilies, their fragrance filling the air. And there, standing at the entrance to greet her guests, was Ursuline. She looked exactly as I remembered her, perhaps even more polished. Her wedding dress was a cascade of white lace and silk, and her hair was swept up in an elaborate arrangement decorated with small pearls. But what struck me most was the expression on her face. It was triumphant, expectant, the look of someone who was waiting for something specific to happen. When she saw me, her smile widened. She had been waiting for this moment. "Marcus!" she exclaimed, her voice carrying across the entrance. "You actually came. I am so glad." But then her eyes shifted to Camille, and I watched her expression flicker. It was subtle, just a momentary tightening around her eyes, a slight falter in her smile. Camille was not what she had expected. Camille radiated a quiet confidence, the kind that comes from genuine self-assurance, rather than expensive accessories. "And who is this?" Ursuline asked, her voice slightly less warm than before. "This is Camille," I said simply. "My girlfriend." They shook hands, and I noticed Ursuline studying Camille more closely, now trying to assess her, categorize her, determine how she fit into the narrative Ursuline had constructed in her mind. "It is lovely to meet you," Camille said with a genuine smile. "Thank you for including us in your special day." We moved on to allow other guests to greet the bride, and Camille squeezed my hand. "She was definitely not expecting me," she whispered with a small laugh. "The ceremony was beautiful, I will give them that." Ursuline and Derek exchanged vows under an arch of white roses, and the guests dabbed at their eyes with monogrammed handkerchiefs. Derek was tall and conventionally handsome, with the kind of practiced smile that I imagined served him well in boardroom negotiations. After the ceremony, we moved to the reception tent for cocktails and dinner. Camille and I found our table, which was positioned near the back of the room, far from the head table where Ursuline and Derek sat. Clearly, she had not wanted to give me a prime seat. She had wanted me present but peripheral, close enough to witness her happiness, but far enough to feel my own insignificance. At our table were 6 other guests, including a middle-aged man who introduced himself as Thomas, Derek's uncle. He was friendly and talkative, asking about our professions and how we knew the couple. "I work in technology," I said simply when he asked what I did for a living. "Oh, tech," Thomas said with interest. "My nephew keeps telling me I need to invest more in tech stocks. What kind of technology work do you do?" Before I could deflect with a vague answer, another guest at the table leaned forward. She was a woman in her 50s, with sharp eyes and an expensive watch. I had noticed her studying me since we sat down. "Wait a moment," she said. "I know you. You are Marcus from SecureNet. Are you not the cybersecurity company that was just acquired?" I felt Camille's hand find mine under the table. "Yes," I admitted. "That is me." The woman's face lit up. "I read about that deal in Forbes' $20 million. My investment fund actually considered making an offer before the acquisition. You built something quite impressive." Suddenly everyone at the table was looking at me differently. Thomas leaned in with new interest. Other guests nearby had heard the exchange and were turning to look. I could feel the shift in energy the way whispers began to ripple outward from our table. I glanced toward the head table and saw Ursuline watching us, a puzzled frown on her face. She had noticed that something was happening at my table, that people were paying attention to me in a way that she had not anticipated. Over the next hour, the situation only intensified. Word had spread through the reception that one of the guests was the founder of a startup that had just been acquired for $20 million. People kept finding excuses to visit our table to introduce themselves to ask about my work. A tech investor wanted my opinion on emerging trends. A corporate lawyer asked if I was looking for board positions. A venture capitalist wanted to know if I had any new projects in the works. Through it all, I tried to remain humble and redirect attention back to the wedding, but the damage was done. Ursuline's carefully orchestrated event was being overshadowed by the very person she had invited to humiliate. During the cocktail hour, Ursuline finally approached me. Her smile was fixed in place, but I could see the strain behind it. "Marcus," she said, her voice carefully controlled, "I have been hearing some things. People are talking about you. Something about a company. I have been fortunate," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Found my path eventually." "Your path," she repeated, and I could see her mind working, reassessing, recalculating. "How fortunate for you." She stood there for a moment, and I watched the realization settle over her. The man she had dismissed, the man she had said would never be anything, had become something far beyond what she had imagined. And she had invited him here to her own wedding to witness her triumph. But her expression shifted from shock to something else, something like regret. Her eyes moved to Camille, who was chatting warmly with another guest nearby, and then back to me. "I should get back to my guests," she said quietly, and walked away. Later that evening, I excused myself to find the restroom. The hallway was quiet, away from the music and laughter of the reception. As I walked past a partially open door, I heard voices and stopped. It was Derek talking to someone I could not see. "Do you have any idea how much this wedding cost?" Derek was saying, his voice tight with frustration. "Her father paid for almost everything. The venue, the catering, the flowers. Because right now, things are tight, really tight. The company is struggling, and I do not know how much longer I can keep up appearances." I stood frozen, listening. "So what are you going to do?" the other voice asked. "I do not know," Derek admitted. "I thought marrying Ursuline would help. Her family has money, but now I'm stuck. Her father is already dropping hints about me paying him back. And this wedding was supposed to be our fresh start, but instead everyone is talking about some guy she used to date. Do you know how that makes me look?" I had heard enough. I quietly walked away, my mind processing what I had just learned. Derek was not the successful investment banker Ursuline had portrayed him as. The lifestyle she had chased, the image she had cultivated, it was built on shaky ground. She had left me for a man she thought represented success and security, but it had all been an illusion. I did not feel satisfaction at this discovery. Instead, I felt something closer to sadness. Ursuline had spent 3 years building a life based on appearances, and now she was about to discover that appearances can crumble. Camille and I decided to leave the reception early. We had stayed long enough. We had been polite, we had made pleasant conversation, and there was nothing left for us here. As we walked toward the parking lot, I heard footsteps behind us. "Marcus, wait." It was Ursuline. She had followed us outside, still in her wedding dress, the hem trailing in the gravel. In the dim light of the parking lot lamps, she looked smaller somehow, less certain than she had at the entrance. "I need to say something," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I made a mistake, did I not? Back then, I mean. When I left you." I looked at her, this woman who had once held my heart in her hands and chosen to drop it. I had imagined this moment so many times in those dark months after she left. I had rehearsed speeches, composed angry letters I never sent, dreamed of the day she would realize what she had lost. But standing here now, I did not feel anger. I did not feel triumph. I felt something unexpected. Compassion. "We both learned something, Ursuline," I said gently. "I hope you find happiness. Truly." She stared at me and I saw tears forming in her eyes. Not the pretty romantic tears of wedding joy, but something rawer and more painful. "I thought I knew what I wanted," she whispered. "I thought I needed someone who had already arrived. I did not understand that the journey is the whole point." Camille took my hand and I gave Ursuline one last look. There was nothing left to say. I wished her well sincerely, and we walked to my car. On the drive home, Camille was quiet for a long time. Then she asked, "How do you feel?" I thought about it carefully. For 3 years I had carried a small wound in my chest, the place where Ursuline's words had cut deepest. "You will never be anything." Those words had driven me, motivated me, haunted me. "I feel free," I said finally. Like I have been carrying something heavy for a long time, and I just set it down. Camille smiled and rested her hand on my knee. "That is exactly how you should feel." 3 months after the wedding, Nathan called me with news. He had heard through mutual acquaintances that Ursuline and Derek were having problems. Derek's father's company had gone bankrupt and they had been forced to sell their house. The life Ursuline had chosen was unraveling. I did not feel happy about that. Truly, I did not. I hoped they could work through it, find something real beneath the surface of their relationship. But their struggles were not my concern anymore. They were living their story, and I was living mine. My story was better than I had ever dared to imagine. I had a career, I loved a woman who loved me for exactly who I was, and a future that felt full of possibility. I had started mentoring young developers, sharing what I had learned about persistence and self-belief. I had begun speaking at conferences about the importance of resilience in tech careers. And I had finally understood something that Ursuline's invitation had ultimately taught me. The best response to someone trying to make you feel small is not revenge. It is not proving them wrong. It is simply outgrowing them. Not out of spite, but out of self-love. If you have ever been underestimated by someone you loved, I want you to know this. Their inability to see your worth says everything about their vision and nothing about your value. The people who cannot see your potential are simply not equipped with the eyes to recognize it. And to anyone out there who has received an invitation designed to make you feel less than show up, hold your head high. Let your life speak for itself. You might just find that the person who tried to humble you ends up humbling themselves. That is my story. I would love to hear yours. Have you ever been invited somewhere by someone who wanted to show off only to have it backfire on them? Or have you been underestimated by someone who later regretted it? Share your experience in the comments below. I read every single one, and I believe every story deserves to be heard. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to hit that like button. It helps more people discover these stories. And if you are not already part of our community, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope my experience reminds you that your worth is not determined by anyone else's opinion of you. It is determined by how you show up for yourself day after day, even when no one is watching. Take care of yourselves out there, and remember the best chapters of your life might be the ones that start after someone else has closed the book on you.